Why isn't the right thing to do to ask the people that are saying they are being abused by the post office?
Well,
why miss out on them? I want to go back to your statement, if I can, please, when you refer to the information that was given as you're talking about to your private office from the journalist Ms. Thompson. So if we go, please, to paragraphs 52 to 54, I'd be grateful.
Yes, I've got that here.
Now, if we look at 52, if we have that up on the screen, I'll be grateful. We see there what's happening. Just orientate ourselves to the point. Your office is getting information from a publication called Computer Weekly. This is being passed on by an MP called Mr. Binley, and this is about articles written by Ms. Thompson. And I'll just summarise what is being written here. She's talking about the fact that she's spoken to several current and former sub-postmasters, talking about random flaws in the system. She's talking about deficits in weekly accounts, sometimes to thousands of pounds at a time, that the post office, this is my summary, is making people, sub-postmasters, pay back this money without any investigation to what's going wrong. And then as you go through, and you're quoting within your own statement, the fact that the articles are continuing and referring to what I would call devastating consequences, that people are turning to false accounting or being forced to file for bankruptcy. Now, that's my summary of particular parts of what's being sent through to government, okay? Now, these are unusual allegations. These are particularly strong allegations, with sub-postmasters in branches being made to pay back or being prosecuted or turning to criminal acts. These are wholly unusual. Do you agree?
It is unusual, yes.
Yeah. The large number of people that I represent, I suppose, want to find out then what happened next. And again, in my summary, what happened next was your office went back to the post office, who the sub-postmasters regarded as the abuser of them, went back to the post office and said, what's going on? And you got a reply from the chief executive of the post office saying, no problem here, this is not happening. How do we in the future, when you're thinking about changes to the way that these matters should be looked at, how do we actually get the government to actually think about what people are saying, not just organisations? Because what could have happened here was that someone could have spoken to the sub-postmasters rather than just going back to the post office. Why did nobody do that?
Well, look, for us in taking this allegation at the time, the right thing to do was to ask the people running the business, and we've talked a lot about this morning. That structure had been set up some years before I was the minister. They were the people who ran the Horizon system. They were the people who had the information about it. And when I look at the correspondence in the round, what I'm really struck by is how emphatic their defence of the system was and continued to be for a long time after this exchange of correspondence. Not only an emphatic defence, but also the use of court judgments as a proof point. And when you have the use of court judgments as a proof point, ministers at that point, as I said in my exchanges with Mr. Stevens, ministers at that point will usually think, I can't intervene in court judgments, and they think that for a very good reason.
Well, you've already been asked questions by the chair of this inquiry about that part of it, and I'll leave that alone. But my point, and the question I'm asking you, is this. You're saying that the right thing to do is to ask Mr. Cook, this is what your private office did, Mr. Cook at the post office. You're saying that's the right thing to do. Why isn't the right thing to do to ask the people that are saying they are being abused by the post office?
Well,
why miss out on them? Well,
the National Federation of Sub-Postmasters has seen in evidence given by the then General Secretary to a select committee some years later, he says that at the time he didn't think there was a fundamental problem with the system either. So at the time, the representatives, or what I thought was the representative of the sub-postmasters, they weren't raising it as an issue either. Now, what I have subsequently discovered, which I did not realise at the time, was that the relationship between the National Federation of Sub-Postmasters and many individual sub-postmasters, I think particularly perhaps those involved in this scandal, was a bad relationship, but that wasn't something that was clear to me at the time. So you have both the management of the business and, in effect, the trade union saying very similar things.
Mr. McFadden, I know that you've been a politician for a very long time. That wasn't my question. My question was in relation to this correspondence, the trenchant and deeply disturbing allegations being made by Computer Weekly were not investigated by your department. They were simply circulated back to Mr. Cook. As an example, if your answer was right, nobody within your department said, well, let's have a word with the NFSP. What happened at the time is you just go back to Mr. Cook rather than the people making these awful complaints. Have you got a better answer than, well, I'm not sure why it didn't happen, but we could have, if later on thought about it, we might have had a natter with the NFSP, which didn't happen?
I think it was the right thing to do to try to raise these concerns with the Post Office who were running the system. The fact that the Post Office's assurances proved to be wrong about the robustness of the system, and the fact that the court judgments that they were using as proof points proved to be unsafe and unsound and were later overturned was not known at the time.
So I've asked that question, I think, 3 times. I'll stop now.